Original music for this podcast has been provided by Ashiko Music Group 1 at gmail.com. Ashiko Music Group 1 at gmail.com. Welcome to your Expat Expert podcast, where we share ways to study, volunteer, work, or retire abroad. Embrace this journey because your new life is about to begin.
The title of this podcast episode is called Sometimes in Life You Have to Pivot. And Carlos definitely had to pivot in some unforeseen circumstances. So Carlos, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, no problem. So Carlos, what were your original life plans and what made you pivot?
So my original life plan was to go to the United States on a baseball scholarship. From there, get seen by the professional scouts, sign a professional contract, become a professional baseball player, make it to MLB, and have a baseball career. That was my life goal.
Okay.
What made me change? Well, several situations. First of all, I never got drafted, unfortunately.
Okay.
But even though I was an All-American player in college, I didn't get drafted. From there, I had to take the opportunity of playing independent professional baseball, which is teams that are away from MLB. They're not affiliated, but they give you the opportunity. They give you a paycheck. They give you room and board. Mm-hmm. And if somebody decides to sign you from there, then you can go to MLB almost directly. Oh. So I took the opportunity because, hey, paycheck, room and board, and you're called a professional baseball player. So that was my dream. So I took it. I made the team. But unfortunately, on week 2, I broke my hand.
Oh. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So
after breaking my hand, one of the doctors basically said I couldn't play baseball for 2 years. My room and board was over. My team let me go with a $253 check in my hand, 2 suitcases. Dreams were broken. I was walking down a highway thinking, what am I going to do next?
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a plan. My only plan was plan A. I never had a whole plan.
Mm-hmm.
But years before, when I was in college, I met this great guy called Steve Trishler, which told me about the Army, told me about the finance opportunities in the Army. So while I was walking down the street that night, it came to my head that I should call Steve and see what happens.
Okay.
And when I called Steve, he told me to use the little cash that I had to get on a Greyhound. I don't know if people know what a Greyhound is in the United States, but it's these big buses that go with a bunch of strange people from state to state. When you don't have enough money to buy a plane ticket, it takes a lot longer, but it gets the job done. So that's what I did. I bought a ticket for like $45, all the way from Indiana to Steve's house in Alabama. It took me about half a day, like 12 to 13 hours.
Wow. And what was it called again?
I'm sorry?
What is it called again?
Greyhound.
Oh, Greyhound, a bus ticket. Okay, I got it.
Yes, that's what it was. Greyhound bus ticket.
Okay.
It gave me 14 hours to think about my life and think about everything. But to this time, I wasn't ready. I really put myself in a room for 30 days. I isolated myself, didn't know what to do. But during those 30 days, all I did was exercise and rehab my own hand on my own.
Okay.
To see if I could get another opportunity. But when I got out of the room for another phone call to try to play professional baseball again, my hand was still hurting in a lot of pain. I couldn't play baseball no more at the professional level.
Okay.
So decision time making.
Right.
And Steve took me to a recruiting station. I told him I want to go away. I wanted it to start over on something and then come back later. He said, well, it's time for you to go to basic training. Maybe that will give you a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to do a long time contract. If you don't like it, you can just finish the contract and start again. And I said, okay, let's do it. Well, I was always a high IQ student in school, so I didn't have to study for the Expat or anything. I just took it and passed it. One shot, one kill, like
Oh,
they said.
wow. Nice.
And next thing I know is I was shipped into basic training like in 3 weeks. I was in good shape, so I didn't have to get in shape like other people do, or wait months to lose weight or anything like that, because I was an athlete all my life.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, Steve helped me become a finance officer. He guided me the whole process. He told me what to do. So I finished my college degree. I went back to college, finished my degree, joined the ROTC program for those that don't know, and became a finance officer in the United States Army.
Wow. That's some serious unforeseen circumstances, but it happens to so many athletes. And it definitely forces you to make decisions and figure out what you want to do within your life. So I am so thankful that you took that route, a very positive route. And then you had to pivot again, because although the military took you all over, like Turkey, South Korea, Thailand, another pivot occurred with your family. What happened during COVID?
Well, during COVID, first of all, the Army after baseball was the best decision I ever made. Mm-hmm. For those listening to this podcast and this story, I say, when one door closes, don't stay inside that door. Get out and open others on your own. And I think that's what I did. Mm-hmm. I just saw some opportunities to fast forward my life, and I went with it. Because although it sounded quickly and fast that I became an officer, it was just another challenge, because it wasn't easy to become a finance officer. And I did it. You had to work hard. You had to be at the top of the class to get the job that I wanted. It's very competitive in the military as well, but I was used to competition. So I just competed harder than anybody else to get what I wanted. So the military took me first of all to the United States, which I'm from Puerto Rico. So United States is a different land. It's a different language, because English is my second language, as you can hear my accent. And then it took me to Honduras. It took me to Korea. It took me to Turkey. It took me to Thailand. When COVID happened, I was in Korea with my wife and my 2 kids. I was in the position that I always wanted as a finance officer. I wanted to be an XO for a finance unit, and then I wanted to be a commander. So during COVID, I was in both of those positions. Fortunately for me, I was able to be with my kids and my wife and come home every day. I didn't have to be away from them, but I couldn't travel at all to go see my mother or my family in Puerto Rico. Okay. The biggest challenge for me during COVID was that in Korea, or what they call the Korean theater, my job was to receive and process the 28,000 soldiers that show up and leave Korea every day. But finance is just like a medical service, The medical service cannot close regardless, and finance cannot close because people have to get paid to continue serving, right?
Right.
So it was very challenging to readjust immediately to the new procedures and not shutting down like everybody else. Everybody else was shut down. Everybody else was working from home. We couldn't do that because we still have to serve the people showing up and the families showing up and making sure they're getting paid. So finding supplies to keep my soldiers healthy. As the executive officer at the time, I was in charge of all the logistics. So finding supplies, finding the plastics to cover their desk, everything was just so challenging. Some of my soldiers were getting sick at the same time. So when you lose one soldier, basically you lose 10. And you should shut down, but we couldn't shut down.
Right.
So when the vaccine came, the first round of vaccine were given to the medical service people in Korea and to us as finance, so that we can be a little bit more protected than everybody else. And we never did shut down. We had to adjust. There were some days that I didn't sleep in the office just to plan the logistics for the next morning at 5 in the morning, just to make sure my troops were safe, but people were getting served. Okay. So that, for me, that was the biggest challenge, but we made it happen. At some point when the supplies were over, I had to become creative. So I looked at the boxes of the supplies, and instead of going to a store, I called the supplier myself, and I escorted him to the office with his big trucks just to deliver supplies for us personally, instead of going to the stores. I mean, that's just our experience as a logistical officer at the time, just thinking outside the box and making sure my soldiers were safe. And that's the story of my COVID time.
Okay, wow. Yeah, that's a lot of pivoting, Carlos. Well, we're going to be back with Carlos. Sometimes in life, you have to pivot.
Studied, volunteered, lived, or worked abroad? Share your international experience with us. We want to hear from you. Feel free to contact us at yourexpatexpert@gmail.com.
Okay, we are back with the episode called Sometimes in Life You Have to Pivot with Carlos. So Carlos, what would you tell the younger generation about having a plan?
Well, having a plan, your plan A is always very important. So make sure you have that plan A, 1 to 10 steps ready to go, and that you're working at it. But at the same time, the mistake that I made was that I only have plan A. So I suggest that all of you that are listening that have a goal in life also make plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E. It doesn't matter how many letters you go, but make plans, because for me, when my plan A fall apart, I didn't know what to do. It was a very dark month of my life, not knowing what to do. And I'm glad I had a good network at the time to make sure people gave me some advice and come up with another plan. But it's so important to build several plans for your life, because if one don't work, you can get the other one, and at the end of the day, you make it to where you want to be in life, and that's what happened to me.
Right, and it's a surprising blessing as well. You traveled all over the world.
Hey, I traveled all over the world. My hand recovered. While I was becoming an officer, I went back to professional baseball in Puerto Rico. So I was able to play while I was becoming a professional soldier, you know?
Nice.
I was able to play baseball again. Then when life took me to Honduras, I was able to play the Honduran League. Nice. So I played in the Honduran League. When life took me to Korea, I was able to play the Korean League for 3 years. Then they didn't have baseball in Thailand, in Turkey at all. But, I'm an athlete, so I was able to play some basketball. But now that I'm in Thailand, I'm already invited to several baseball tournaments. And another big blessing that God gave me, I'm able to coach kids here on a part-time basis here in the international school. So you never know. I still do what I love. I still do in baseball, and I've been able to do it all over the world thanks to that plan B that was the Army. And honestly, I have a beautiful career as a finance officer.
Wow, I never knew that you were able to continue doing baseball. That's amazing, Carlos. I didn't know that. So,
yes,
wow.
I'm still very active. Okay. I play every Sunday, and I coach kids Monday to Thursday and Saturdays.
Okay. See, and that's that's something that people probably don't even think about. Athletes don't even think about once something happens, something occurs. So that alone, with you mentioning those things, that's amazing. So I thank you for sharing.
No problem. I'm willing to tell everybody the full story in some other episode. That would be great. I make it sound like an easy journey.
Right.
It hasn't been an easy journey at all. You know, here in Thailand, I have a very high level job working for the Department of State in the finance area. But you got to start from the bottom. I started from low chlorine in the mud, and I started from becoming a soldier at the lowest rank, and had to better my English. I didn't speak good English at the time.
Right.
I had to learn how to read English. I had to learn how to write English, because as officers we expected to have good grammar. I had to take leadership classes. But it's a beautiful ending. I mean, even the military, I never thought about finishing my education, and with the military I was even able to get my master's degree, which the military covered. That wasn't even in my plans ever.
Right.
So the last thing I like to tell young people is education never ends. Education never ends. It doesn't matter if you went to college, it doesn't matter if you got a doctorate degree or a PhD. You gotta self-educate yourself every day. You gotta learn something new every day, because that will take you places that you never know. And you never knew that existed. So education for me has been key, and I continue to educate myself on a daily basis, learn something new, improve for my job, for my life, for my family. For everything that I do, continue to educate myself has been the key to my success.
Well, Carlos, I thank you so much. I'm a little shocked because I didn't know how, I kind of knew how it ended, but I didn't know you were able to continue doing certain things. So that's amazing to me. And as always, I wanted to thank you for sharing your journey, because sometimes in life you have to pivot. So Carlos, thank you for coming on the show, and hopefully we can do a follow-up in the next, 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely, anytime. We can do it next week if you want. Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay, thank you, Carlos.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope this gives you some creative ideas on how you can study, volunteer, work, or retire abroad. Shout out to my sound editor, Martin, and Ashiko Music Group. Feel free to follow us through our social media channels listed in the description below. See you next time.